They don't respect Clarence Thomas. They call him an Uncle Tom, a coon. Now, this is a man that broke so many barriers for blacks, right? Not just a Republican. Forget being a Republican. He really experienced racism. Like, his confirmation hearing was so controversial because he was a black man. That was real systematic racism he was up against, right? But yet they think he's a coon.
So you say that the two people in charge are two black women, and are they the ones who are ultimately responsible for you being let go?
Yes. And the next day I got called into a meeting.
That's what I think. Like, the redeemed black spirit is a powerful tool. It is a powerful, powerful tool. And like, to see it used in a righteous way, like Mark Robinson, like, I get emotional thinking about it.
You're listening to the Great Reassessment Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. This today is an important episode, maybe the most important episode I've ever recorded, because this one really hits home. A lot of you know that what happened to me recently. I was a former teacher and I was fired over, violating the woke standards, the woke ideologies of the left. And you might think that this was just a simple once in a blue moon thing, but it's happened again to another teacher. And I am fortunate to be able to speak to him today. His name is Jordan Wells, aka Black MAGA Preacher. And I cannot wait to dive in to speak with him today because this is very recent. He was just fired yesterday, and allegedly over his conservative Christian worldview, and some of the viewpoints that he talks about online outside of his work. But we're going to talk today. So, Jordan Wells, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to this conversation. It needs to be had.
Yes. And so, man, I just want to give you the opportunity to just share what's the context to everything that's happening. You posted a video on Twitter yesterday. It has gone viral. You were talking about how you have to exit your classroom, and you're a teacher at a school in Florida. We know that much. But what's the context? Like, what's going on over there?
Yeah, well, we've been doing politics for a long time, about 5 years. Oh, I don't know. But we have been we've been doing conservative things. We've been, I've run for office, I ran for Congress, I run for school board. So, when this happened, it was just, I had been on a show called Jubilee, debating on black conservatism versus black liberalism. Basically, I was one of the 20 that was there, and I had a few with me and maybe two others. Some very viral clips on reparations, white supremacy, and systematic racism. Well, those clips went viral. At the time, I had just started working at this new Christian school. I had kind of stopped doing teaching because I just got tired of the things that go on in the classroom. The teaching has become a very hard field. And so I kind of took a break from teaching. I definitely had been doing public school and I stopped doing that. So I just decided. Now, I had two options, and I tell people I should have known not to go to that school. To be honest, I prefer not to work in all black environments. Before your guest, I need some diversity in my teaching, because usually when you're a black conservative, this is the type of stuff that happens. If they find out who you are, you're targeted, you're abused, you're bullied, and it's not a safe environment for black conservatives. So, but I just took the job. And around that time, the video went viral. When I was on the Shade Room, which has over 29 million subscribers, a big black, like a BET type of thing. And and the next day I got called into a meeting. I've done my job well, and I love my kids, and I'm a very good teacher. And my vice principal, and I just was like, where I knew, kind of feel like what I felt like it was something to do with with what was going on, but I wasn't sure. So I took the meeting with my vice principal, my principal. First thing she asked me, was she being recorded, which I was going to record her, because I just felt weird about the meeting. Um, And that I knew that in itself was weird, her asking if she was being recorded, because she never had asked that before. Then she began to talk to me about the video and my political beliefs. And mind you, I've never talked about politics at the school. I've never talked about political anything. I never talk about my outside life. I keep that separate for a reason because I'm there to teach, educate students. And I tell people on the left the same thing. I don't believe people should be fired because of what they believe. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, I don't believe you should be fired as long as you don't bring it into the classroom. That is my belief. That is what I champion. And I would go to Tallahassee and say the same thing. This country has got very toxic because we have a situation where Republicans are only going to be able to work with Republicans and Democrats are only going to be able to work with Democrats, right? And it shouldn't be like that, right? We should be able to coexist with different political beliefs and do a job as long as we're not bringing those ideologies into the classroom. The left shouldn't be indoctrinating our kids, and we're not going to try to indoctrinate theirs, right? So I believe that. And so this meeting was basically a very long meeting. It was about an hour. I was pulled out of class, pulled out of my teaching my kids, and I was given an ultimatum that I either had to pull down all my social media content and stop talking about politics, especially that regarding race, things like that, because uh, our parents didn't want their kids in my classroom, and she wouldn't want her kids in my classroom. And yeah, and so I told, I knew I wasn't going to do it. And I pretty much told him I wasn't going to do it, and that I to really give me a few days to think about it. And the next few days became very abusive. Uh, I was called incompetent, which I'd never been called before by anybody, and because I'm very good at my job. Um, and then the next day, I was a remark about my sexuality was brought up by the vice principal and the principal. It was just a very toxic situation, and so I was scheduled a meeting. The word was that in this meeting that they were going to decide to possibly let me go for the situation because I refused to stop. I kept posting right after that, and yeah, so I just told them that you don't have to fire, you don't have to, we don't have to go through through with this. I'm a believer in God. I said I'll be okay. And I sent the email to HR. I sent an email to the higher ups and told them that I will be reaching out to people about discrimination, political discrimination, and that that this was a discrimination basically, and that was the end of it.
So you basically told them, I'm not taking down my social media content, which, I understand how that would rub them the wrong way. However, you are not posting anything that's inconsistent with um the school's philosophy or the because it's a Christian school, you said.
Yeah.
Right? So if you're talking about conservative ideas outside of your workplace, which you have a right to do, I mean, it'd be one thing if you were posting about things like drinking on the weekends, getting a bunch of girls, like going to Vegas and high time partying, but you're talking about social issues and from a conservative viewpoint that you're deeply concerned about outside of work. Like you're not trying to indoctrinate children. So why do you think that? Because that's what I don't understand. Like, why is this Christian school upset about you being a conservative? What's the deal there?
Well, I tell people the problem is black people, and this is a racial thing. Black people are very conservative, except in their politics.
Mm.
And we know this because they vote Democrat by a huge majority. So, they'll praise God and they'll talk about God and Jesus and all this. But when it comes to voting, they are completely liberal and they'll make every excuse to vote liberal. And that's the most. I was listening to Brandon Taven, and he was talking about how it was the most super saved woman in his church, right? I mean, I'm talking that you would have thought she was the most Christianized woman in the church. When he became a black conservative and became vocal, she cussed him out. She lost all semblance of the of Christian faith, and so that's just rampant. And I've been speaking out about it. That though I believe that my faith is more in line with Republican and conservative principles, I believe it's an oxymoron to say you're a liberal Christian. I don't believe they go together. And I can go word for word, scripture for scripture on that. I don't believe that, you can believe, abortion and these different topics. I believe these are Christian issues. But the reality of it is that school run by two African American women were very upset by it, and they tried to act like they were not, because they're very professional, so they try to do a very good job of acting like they were trying to be concerned, even saying that they could give me some mental help, um, from a counselor. So, in a nice way, they were nice, nasty with it. They said they don't believe what I say is Christ-like or Christian, which I don't understand that. A lot of very insulting things was said in that hour, that I was in that meeting. But um, I was going to be fine because I have different things that I do, outside of that I'm fine financially. My wife works, and I have contracts that I do. I can contract substitute teach, and I have a lot of other things I do. I'm a minister, so I do have other streams of income, and people have been very responsive and they've helped. We had a few of our friends that asked us to do a GoSendMe so that they could help, with legal anything, because we're looking into law fees and all that. So we're going to be fine. But the people who celebrated the most as I was, experiencing this were the black community. Some in the black community were happy, and it's very ecstatic that I'm going through what I went through. My greatest support has been people of other nationalities and Caucasians, who they say I'm supposed to hate. So, yeah, I'm very outspoken about these racial issues, because I believe as a man of faith, you cannot hate people because they're white. And I told her that, the principal, and I would tell her pastor that, we cannot be, calling ourselves Christian people and then claiming to hate people because of the color of their skin. So, yeah, I don't believe, and the whole thing was, oh, we believe that systematic racism is an issue. We believe that white supremacy is an issue. That's what was said to me in the meeting.
So yeah, that's good context. Thank you for sharing. So you say that the two people in charge are two black women, and are they the ones who are ultimately responsible for you being let go?
Yes,
And what is the demographic makeup of the student population? Is this a primarily black
yes,
school?
95% black,
Yeah. And the faculty as well?
95% black.
So you are a black man, obviously. This is very interesting to me. As an American, I've lived in various parts of the country, and I've worked with a lot of black folks. When I was in the military, a lot of my coworkers were black. That's the one great thing about the military, or not the one great thing, but it's one of the great things. Is like sometimes you get to work with people who are from all over the country, and so in my particular job, I worked with a lot of people who are from Baltimore, Louisiana, Georgia, and it's really great to like kind of see what everybody brings to the table, just from their part of the country, and worked with a lot of black men and women. And one of the things that I just gathered was that like there seems to be like this presence of like race mindedness. And that's a terrible term for it, but like this you carry the fact that you are black with you everywhere you go. Like, you can't actually separate it from anything. And so, like, like maybe two strangers who both happen to be black meet each other. There's like this, more often than not, generally, like this undertone of an understanding, like, hey, we're on the same team here. Whereas, like, is what I'm describing accurate?
Yes, exactly. You're on the same team until you tell them you're Republican.
Yeah, like, hey, and some people will say that that is like like that derives from like hundreds of years ago when blacks were could be slaves in this country, and like this had to, like, this stick together mentality because of slavery and Jim Crow, and some of that resonates a little bit. Like, I can understand where that might come from, but like, this is just my brutal honest opinion, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. But it seems like the racial awareness, like, that affects like your orientation, not yours, but like in general, like as you are in the world, is a perpetual mindset that is being passed down through the generations. And it's being taught in very subtle ways by black families, or in you like telling instructing children as they come up, like, to be careful. You're black, you're going to have a hard time in this life. I need to prepare you what it's like to be a black man in the United States. you
Yes.
you need to follow certain rules. You need to keep yourself safe. And I understand that that is being taught in love, but I just don't know if it's helpful or necessary to instruct kids in this perpetual mindset that I think ultimately it is more destructive than anything, because it's preventing blacks and whites from getting along. Like, I'll speak from my perspective only. I am generally going to give everybody a fair shake when I meet them. I'm a Christian. I consider myself a kind, open person. Like, I really don't think a black person needs to view me with certain suspicion, as though I might try to hurt them or mislead them in some way. But for a lot of, and sometimes it's more subtle, but like, coming into an engagement with me with like a slight suspicion that I might not have their best interest in mind, when I'm not even thinking about race. Like, obviously I know you're black and I'm white. Like, I get that, right? Like, people see that they're the only type of person in the room, right? Like, I remember when I used to live near Joint Base Andrews in Maryland. I lived in Camp Springs, Maryland, which is like very, very black.
Yeah.
I would get on the metro in DC. I would be the only white person on the train, and people would stare at me. And I understand why. It's like, you are we're not used to seeing white people. What are you doing here? Like, and I didn't think that people were necessarily racist, but I feel like if the roles were reversed and a black person steps on an all white train, and just somebody's looking because they're not used to it, they're not used to seeing a black person, they're like, more often than not, this black person will think it's because of racism.
Yeah.
Where is that coming from? I described where I kind of suspect, but like, where is this racial mindedness coming from, man? And like, how do we get rid of that? To kind of, we'll get back to the education part in a
Yeah.
second, but like,
Well, it's coming from childhood, it's coming from upbringing. Um, for me, I was taught that way. I was raised that way. But as a Christian, it changed everything for me.
yeah.
So when I became a Christian, I stopped viewing people that way. I was very race oriented. I remember I wanted to date outside my race when I was younger, and my mom told me, "You better not bring no white girl home." They that was very clear. She was, but people were very serious. And so that is a mindset that started at childhood. We're not raising our daughter like that. She goes to a predominantly white school. She has a lot of white friends. We don't teach her that way, so she doesn't really see color. Because when children are growing up, they taught hate. They're taught racism. They're taught, you are, and that's why I fought so hard against CRT, which is all of it goes together. CRT, systematic racism, white supremacy, all of it is an ideology of black supremacy. I call it black supremacy. It all flows from the same head, right? I'm black. I'm oppressed. The white man is the problem for everything that I have in my life. And that mindset has been passed on from grandmother, from probably civil rights times, to mom, then takes that mindset of why she wasn't successful or why she is a single mom. And she somehow has blamed that. Like my mom, I love her, but she blames white people for everything, right? She'll do something that's against the law or she'll do something that she shouldn't be doing. And it's the white man's problem. It's the fact that she lives in a Republican state. It's their fault. And and I talk to her about this stuff all the time, but that's a mindset, it's a stronghold in the mind. And so the way you break that again is I realized that when I became a Christian, I voted Republican for the first time. I voted for Mitt Romney. I did not care for Mitt Romney, but I just knew that I could not vote for Barack because his values were against, and I was the first person, I believe I'm the first person in my family to ever vote Republican. Um, I believed that the worst of two evils, and I still believe that regardless of any politics. I don't believe the Republican Party is perfect. I don't believe that there are not people who are racist in both parties, right? But I believe that my values align with that of the Republicans on a policy basis. And I try to explain that to black people. They can't get they can't differentiate between policy and personality, right? So I had a black man reach out to me, how dare you call yourself black? Then they start talking about how horrible of a person Trump was. And I'm trying to explain to them, which I don't think Trump is a horrible person, but I was trying to, with all you think about Trump, right? Whatever that is, can we get away from him as a person and focus on policy? He couldn't do it. So there's this mindset that Republicans are evil because they're racist. So any policy they have, it doesn't matter, right? So the entire reason you're voting is based off a one party issue. The only reason you're voting is based off race. That's it. You don't care about crime. You don't care about your Christian faith. You don't care about abortion. You don't care about trans going too far with the trans rights stuff. You don't care about any of that stuff. Education, kids can't read, none of that school choice, none of that is important. The only issue that 70% of black voters care about is that I refuse to vote for Republicans because they're all racist. And even Jasmine Crockett just said that all Republicans are racist. And they keep saying it over and over because it's brainwashing. If I keep saying something over and over and over and over again, then black voters, a lot of them are low propensity vote. They're low IQ voters. I'm sorry. Not that they're stupid, because there's a lot of very intelligent black people, very intelligent black women. But as far as the way they vote, they're low IQ voters. They don't vote based off um, doing their own research. They vote based off what they're told from the people in power. And the people in power, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, these people say that they're racist. So, it's a whole subject. I'm
Yeah.
actually trying to work on a book on it right now.
Wow.
Um, that I'm writing and I'm finishing, but it goes into all that. I think it needs to be, because a lot of people that are Caucasian, they don't understand it, right? They're like, this makes no sense. Why these people do not, like, no matter what, they're going to vote Democrat.
Yeah.
No matter what, they're bringing up race. And so,
You know what was interesting? And, I understand, like, this is a very complex subject, and I understand there's a lot of nuance. Okay, I'm not trying to ever oversimplify anything, but it was interesting. I don't know if you remember, you probably remember, Trump gained a lot of black support after he got his mugshot, you know, and
Yeah.
I thought the mugshot was cool. Like, don't get me wrong, I thought that was cool. But I already liked Trump. Like, I should say, I already had planned on supporting him. You didn't need to convince me otherwise, right? I'm not gonna vote for Kamala Harris. But what do you think it means that Trump gained a lot of support after he got a mugshot from the black community?
Well, I tell people all the time the black people glorifies criminality, right? And it's just true. And a lot of things they hate me for saying, right? They think it's a betrayal of my race. But I believe if I don't bring it to light, then we can't change, right? Um, there are people that make content about Black America to get viral and to do those things. That's not me. I really do it to help. Because Candace Owens helped me back before she, you old Candace Owens, people like her, listening to her on PragerU, listening to people like Byron Donalds and people that are black conservatives that really shifted my thinking. I was a part of Blexit for years when I first got into politics. So that black conservatism got in my mind. Thomas, what's his name? Thomas
On a soul?
Sowell. Yeah, these guys, I read that, listened to their stuff, and it just changed the way I thought as a black conservative. Um, and so black people glorify gang violence. I tell people all the time, and I make posts that it's easier to be a rapper, a sexy red, than it is to be a black Republican. You can be a drug dealer. There's a guy in our culture called King Von. I don't know if you remember of him, you heard of him. Right. Well, he was King Von. He was a famous black rapper. Right. He was a serial killer. They literally called him the black rapper serial killer. He was known. He put it in his music. He killed 30 people, probably 20 or 30 people. He would put their names in his videos, and he was killed himself. But he was a young guy from Chicago, and he was worshipped by black culture. Right. He was worshipped by the black community. There's a guy named Charleston White who even follows me. He's famous for calling out that black insanity. And he said that how can a culture hate people like the black culture hates Clarence Thomas? Just think about that. They don't respect Clarence Thomas. They call him an Uncle Tom, a coon. Now, this is a man that broke so many barriers for blacks, right? Not just a Republican. Forget being a Republican. He really experienced racism. Like his confirmation hearing was so controversial because he was a black man. That was real systematic racism he was up against, right? But yet they think he's a coon. People like Ben Carson, who really experienced racism, like real racism, like the only black surgeon in his field at the time, right? Neurosurgeon. Like these are people that really experience racism, but yet the black community do not respect them. I see the stuff they say about them. They don't like them. They don't have any respect for Clarence Thompson. They've even called me Clarence Thompson as a slur, right? He's a slur. The first black man, one of the first black men. This guy's a legend, and just not just as a black man, but as an American, right? But he's a slur. So that is why Trump gained support. There was a lot of black men that supported him for other good reasons, but a lot of black people supported him because of those reasons, and uh, it's not good, man. And it's something that I'm very passionate about because, um, I don't believe it's healthy, man. And I don't, and I mean, in this job is just another experience of that, and it made me more passionate to do what I'm doing because I thought about it. I really did. That's why people ask like, why you just get up and leave right then? Because I thought about taking it down. But I chose to stand, and did it cost me a lot of money? Yeah. I mean, I was getting paid great money. And now my paycheck is cut in half, even doing my little side business that I do with contracting with schools. But I would rather stand because I'm very passionate about what I'm saying. And I believe people like me and others are the key to the Black community's liberation.
That's beautiful, man. I want to praise you for your boldness because it is not easy to speak the truth when people are against you. And, I learned this recently with what I went through, but, you're standing on more than just a couple things here. You are standing for the truth, and that is sacred ground. Like, it's an honor to stand for the truth. And there are people who might not be vocal about it. You might not even know they're watching you, but it might just be that touch point that they need. And I think ultimately politics, partisanship, it's not enough to change the culture. I really think that it needs to be it needs to be something that can provide an entire moral framework. And that's going to be Christianity. It has to be. The only way where people can put aside their hate or the desire they have to just not like a certain group, it has to be submitted to King Jesus. It has to be is everybody is bringing biases to the table. Like we all are. And for us to truly cohabitate and to partner as citizens, we all have to submit to the same thing. The idea of America, our Constitution, those are great, but we have to submit to something even greater than that, because we can argue about the Constitution, and we will. But for a people, and I believe American is a people now, right? I heard this term, American ethnogenesis, right? This country started with settlers coming, largely from Europe, and they settled, and a new country was formed, and it was people from fleeing or trying to find, free themselves from persecution, and through that, a new people has been formed. And there's people who will disagree. People always say we're a country of immigrants. We are not a country of immigrants anymore. We are a new people. We carry a new mindset. We carry a lot of the same ideals that the founding fathers tried to lay down. We have this resistance towards constraint, and we are, pioneers, and we take risks, but we have to submit. I think the key to the unity is submission. We have to submit to one idea, and that idea needs to be Christianity. It's what binded us in the beginning. It's what's going to bind us now. It's what's going to transcend this hyper fixation on race, and we can still appreciate culture from within that idea, right? There is something about the Black spirit, the Black soul, that I love. I absolutely love it. Do you know Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson from North Carolina?
Yeah.
I love that man. He had one of his famous videos that went totally viral, and he's preaching, he's preaching at a church or something, and he's talking about that there's two genders.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen that clip.
Yeah.
It is amazing. He starts off, he's like, ain't but two genders. And
Yeah.
he's and he just goes off on this tangent, and the spirit and the cadence and the voice that he uses to deliver it, it is distinctly Black.
Yeah.
I could never speak that way. Right? So his message, his spirit, his soul is a vehicle to deliver a message, which if I tried to do that same thing, it would not get across.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I think. The redeemed Black spirit is a powerful tool. It
Mm,
is a powerful, powerful tool, and, like, to see it used in a righteous way, like Mark Robinson, like, I get emotional thinking about it,
wow.
and I just I love it, and, like, he delivered a powerful truth. I should put that video in the section here, but, like, I can get on board with that mission, like, it's slightly different culturally from, like, what I'm used to, but, like
And I want to say this about Mark Robinson, man,
yeah,
that shows you what we're fighting against in the black community. Because I was a preacher, I was not interested in politics, and I paid a heavy price in preaching for politics. But God has elevated me in other areas, right? There are people I could reach in politics that I never could have reached, like with preaching. And so I thank God for that. Our numbers when we had before they shut us down on TikTok twice, but we had like 29 million views. One of our views before the election was like we did a video on Kamala. It was like 20 million people saw it, right? So we've had this success with virality, let's just say this, that we couldn't have had doing probably ministry in itself. But I look at my politics as ministry, you know what I mean? So but Mark Robinson should have won. The reason he didn't, it was two reasons he didn't won. The reason he didn't won is because they wrote a horrible piece about him that CNN, because they don't like black people. They only like them when they can use them, right? I tell people the Republicans and the Democrats, Republicans, the Republican policies are better for black people, right? But Republicans just don't know how to reach black people. I tell people that's the biggest issue, right? Democrats know how to reach black people, but the wrong way, right? They manipulate the pain of black people for their own personal use. And the moment you change parties or change on them, they hate you, right? Mark Robinson is an example of that. Now, North Carolina is a predominantly black state. It's a lot of black people in those cities, right? uh, Mark Robinson got a very small percentage of the black vote. Now, you would think the first black governor, a Christian man, right? This is a man who you read it beats Christianity, man of faith. The black church did not even vote for him because of his party. That's it. If he was Democrat, they would have voted for him. But because of just his party, they wouldn't even vote for him. So, I'm gonna always champion that because I'm on a mission, and it's to get us to see that black supremacy is not the way. And that's why I'm sitting here talking to you, because the black community hates their own when they choose to speak out, when they choose to say, I'm not going to be a victim, right? I told my boss, I'm not going to be a victim. I believe what I'm saying is the key to the black community's liberation. So I can't take these videos down. I can't not speak. And the moment I left out of there, I start posting again because I refuse to be silenced. I refuse to be silent about any preacher friends that have stopped talking to me, who don't like me because of what I preach because they're Democrat preachers. I'm not a Republican preacher. I'm a preacher. And so my message is a lot of times align more with Republican values. But yeah, man, I think it's a issue that is getting out there. That's why the Jubilee thing exploded the way it did. Because even though we're further along in race, I think we've regressed as a country. And it's purposeful. It's purposeful.
yeah. I
They
think
did it on
we
purpose.
I think we have regressed. I think it's more apparent to people who lived through maybe, our grandparents, stuff like who lived through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And, the, I'm reading Thomas Sowell. He cites a lot of statistics about how there was more progress for blacks from the moment slavery ended through Jim Crow. Like, they progressed more with, like, increasing income, jobs, things like that, than they have, like, since post Jim Crow, like through the civil rights era. And those are people who were former slaves, right? Like, how can that be? And so it's just weird how um, culture has changed so much and affected, like, I think it's the laws are a problem, right? You've incentivized single motherhood, right? And anytime you do that, you remove fathers from the house. I don't care if you're black or white, like your community will suffer,
Mhm.
right? There's a lot of poor white communities where the father is out of the picture and like the whole town is just it's a disaster. And I have no reason to believe why it would be different in the black community. Like these are like laws of nature that God has put in to people. And so we need to stop thinking a bit of it as like, oh, this is gonna be good for black people. Like, how about it's just restoring what God's vision for humanity was? One father, one mother, submitted to Christ, and I think that alleviates like 90% of problems. And we can still acknowledge culture, right? Like God, there's a reason why people are different races. If God wanted um everybody to be the same, he would have made us all the same, right? But it has to be um our submission to God that's going to unite us. And so I want to get back to kind of your situation. So what is on the horizon for you? So like, are you going to fight this? Let me ask you this. What do the students think about your dismissal?
Well, I didn't get to say bye to my students. So it was very heartbreaking, and I was very had a hard day with that. But my goal is to turn this into a situation where, to be honest, man, I'm on a mission to really just get my story out there, really, because it's a bigger issue, right? While we have a Republican president, while we have a Republican, Florida is very red, right? I would love this to get to the governor. I would love this. A lot of people have posted his information, not so anything can be done through school because it's very hard to do things to the school because they're private school, right? And so one thing that can be done though, which I filed some stuff with the EOC. We are working on some things. We are looking into legal things. But besides that, I don't want my job back because I don't want to work for a school like that. Right. Who wants to work for a school with those type of toxic environments? And I'm a very qualified teacher. I can get another teaching job. Um, and there's a lot of need out there. Um, but I want to turn this into a conversation. We need, and I know some people disagree with this, but I believe that political belief system needs to be added to our protected statuses in in Florida and in our country, right? They have added gender to that, right? Now you can be protect you in most places unless you're a Christian. Sexual orientation is a protected status. They just recently added that. I think under the last administration, right? That if you're transgender, no, you cannot be fired for that, right? But why is it that we can still be fired because of our political beliefs? And I'm not saying stuff contrary to the school's mission or blasting the school or anything like that. I'm talking about your boss should not be able to go on your social media, see that you are a Republican, that maybe you have a Trump sign on your page, and force you to convert or force you to be in a situation where you have to choose between who you support publicly and your classroom, right? That needs to change, and we need legislation. We need our politicians to understand that, right? I think some of them do, right? And so that's really what the goal is. We're just trying to get our story out there, and and inspire some people to stand, to motivate people. We have to fight. We have to not give up. We have to realize that even if you're in the most Republican state, that this can happen, right? I'm in Florida, most Republican state in the country almost. And yet I'm still experiencing this because I'm in a very Duval County where I'm at is very purple. Our mayor is a Democrat. So it's everywhere in Florida is not the same. A lot of people are saying, I can't believe that happens in Florida. Everywhere in Florida is not the same. The governor right now is fighting with Orange County, which is a Democrat controlled area. Right. So there are Democrat strongholds in Florida, and I'm in one of them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's kind of my plan moving forward. I'm keeping people posted on our what we're doing, and as we move forward, and we started our GoSendMe and I think it's GoSendGo, whatever it is, and we're continuing the fight, man.
Yeah. The education field in general is a liberal stronghold unless it's completely separate from public funding. There's a few Christian schools around here that are very good. It's mainly the classical ones they're very focused on education. But I agree with you. Political status alone should not be enough to fire somebody, especially from a teaching position, because it has nothing to do with like the behavior of that individual, right? Like you can have the most upright, righteous man or woman who is a faithful husband or wife, doing a great job raising their family. But so what if they put that they voted for Donald Trump or on their social media? As long as I right now I believe like so long as it doesn't make its way into the classroom, like that, hey, I voted for so and so, and you should vote this way too, or your parents should vote this way. Like I think that should be a protected status because especially today where one side is heavily in control of education in this country and they can kind of fire you at will. And so let me ask you, is there any sort of because I saw your video, I've been following a lot of your posts. Have you been issued like any sort of memorandum or any sort of official dismissal paper that like you can post? I know you said you can't really talk about the school because there's some legal aspects to this, but like, is there any more information that you can go public with?
Um, well, we can't. We did not because of the way the school is. They're run by very not people who call themselves Christian but are not very nice. So we have not heard anything. We reached out to HR. There was nothing said, and right now we can't fully release the name until we get a clear legal,
Mm,
you know, you know, we talk to get more. We're talking to a lawyer right now, and we're kind of going back and forth on what we can do. And so I have an audio and everything, but I can't release it. I'll record the whole conversation.
mm.
Um,
Have you been
but
issued like any termination papers yet?
not yet.
Okay.
No.
So that's
So
sort of like they kicked you out and yeah, there was no like due process or anything like that, it
no,
sounds
I
like.
mean, and like I said, because they're a private school, they don't have to follow the same laws, right?
Yeah.
So what people got to understand about the way private schools work is they don't have to have any reason, you know. They and that's why I said the laws are kind of not fair for people in those fields, right? You can literally be told to leave, and there be no type of where in a public school there are checks and balances. There are, they can't just fire teachers, once you sign a contract. There has to be like this step by step process. They have like a union and all that stuff, right? And so that doesn't have to happen with these Christian schools, right? So you can do
Yeah.
a lot of dirt. You can do a lot of dirt to people.
Yeah. In one sense, like I want to say I agree with like giving private schools the flexibility to um hire and get rid of teachers because without sort of the burden, oversight, regulation that states require, because what we see in the public schools is that more often than not, really bad teachers can't get fired.
Yeah.
However, I think you can still allow Christian schools that flexibility, but it can't be. It still should. You should still have certain protections based on your political affiliation, um, or at least the way you vote and things like that. Um, and so I'm
Well,
sorry.
private schools have no accountability, and
Yeah.
that is charter schools, public schools have no accountability. So um, and a lot of these schools get private funding. Now you get to step up for students. That is funding that they're giving, right? So I believe that there needs to be still some flexibility for private schools, but I believe there should certain things should still be considered protected status, right? Like I can't fire you because you're black, right? That just
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like that's just not. I don't care what type of school you are. You shouldn't be fired because you're black or because you're white, right? Well, your political beliefs, I believe, fall into it. Like you have the right to be a Democrat. Like, if you work for me, I cannot make you be a Republican. Long as you are not, if I have my own school, you're not in there teaching kids things, you can put that you voted for Kamala Harris, right? But as long as you're a great teacher and you're teaching, exactly what I expect you to teach, there's a problem when education has become politicized, right? So you have undercover teachers that are, scared to say just scared to death. And that's kind of what situation I've been in and I'm in. So we just want people to know what happened and get it out there as much as possible because um there more than anything, I want people to understand the price you pay for being a black conservative, right? That to me is my message, right? Is that I just saw a guy who's over PragerU and he was talking about the same thing. Like there is a heavy price that is paid to be black and being conservative. And it is not hard easy. We lose relationships, family members, we're ostracized. It's like getting kicked out of a cult. And yeah, so you should when you see a black conservative, you should have a lot of respect for them because they go through a lot. A lot of their own family members don't even like them. Thank God I have a very supportive mother, right? Who don't care what I do. But I wouldn't say she's necessarily proud of that part of what I do. She's proud of me, but she's not proud of me being a vocal Republican because she thinks the Republicans are evil. So yeah, that's my message, man. In this whole situation, I'm gonna be fine, right? Yeah, I don't want people feel like, well, don't you want your job? No, I don't want my job back. I'm fine. God has me. I'm protected. I'm perfectly fine. I have a message through this whole situation. And that is I had to pay a heavy price because our systems have become politicized, education in particular. And now people are losing their jobs for their political beliefs. They're being bullied, they're being discriminated against, they're being wrongfully treated, and it's not okay. So I don't want to keep you no longer, but that's just it.
Yeah, well, I certainly have a lot of respect for you, and I do think this runs deeper than just your employment, which is unfortunate and it's sad, and I resonate a lot with it because I went through a very similar circumstance, literally less than 2 months ago, and I think we got to stick together. You know, I think as Americans we have to defeat like a lot of these ideologies that run so counter to what we ought to be as a nation. And, we want our ideas to win. You're a conservative. I'm a conservative. I'm a Christian because I ultimately believe it to be the truth. And I want the truth to reign over our country. And I want to see other people see the light too. And we have people standing in the way. We have to even try to convince them, and if we can't, then we have to build institutions. We have to build culture. We have to build systems that help drown them out. I really think that's the way forward. But you're right. Like as a black conservative and living that out, you face a lot of backlash that most people won't really understand. And so I appreciate you sharing that. A lot of the stuff that we talked about in the center of this has to do with that. Like, you know, Godspeed on your employment situation. I'm gonna plug the GiveSendGo and all that, but like really what we talked about in the center of this, um, the issues, the perpetual mindset that is kind of just going through the generations in the black community and like getting along with whites, like, and that's where the bulk of the important stuff is, I think. And if anybody's watching this, like, have hope, really, I think, and know that there's people who are being bold, which is what we need. We need people to be bold and have nerve to speak the truth. And I think we're having a little bit of a renaissance of that. Like, we need to inspire people to be bold, to speak the truth in the face of opposition. And I applaud you for that. That's what you're doing. And keep us updated because this is really fresh. It just happened a couple days ago. And so,
Yeah.
I know there will probably be new developments. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, people should follow you. And I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I'll just say you guys can please follow me, keep up with my progress. If you want to send a donation, yeah, and just whoever you are, just stand bold, right? We're gonna continue to fight. We're gonna continue to be a voice. We won't back down. We believe what we're saying is the truth, and we're gonna continue to fight against these ideologies. Um, but we appreciate you for having on, and we look forward to seeing the interview replayed.
Yeah, man, this is gonna be a good one. There's a lot of people who I know are looking forward to it, and so appreciate it. Best of luck, man, and we'll be
Thank
praying
you.
for you.
Thank you so much, man.
Have a good day.